It's obvious that this video specifically is not going to be based so much on performance, but more on aesthetics. Every person in the whole world that is working out sometimes looks at their bodies and go, I like those muscles. Yeah, they look good. But then they look at other muscles and go, yeah, not so much. So a few of these muscles are stubborn enough not to grow. Whether it be the abs that won't pop out, the lats that are non-existent, or the chest that is on the inside, like some people have inside boobs. So this is a video that I would love to have seen like maybe 10 to 15 years ago when I was already working out with weights, but then I stagnated and some of the muscles were stubborn enough not to grow, and I was like, what the hell can I do? So I'm gonna give you 6 tips that will help you with that development. In this video, I'm not going to refer to nutrition, but obviously the nutrition is the foundation. But other than that, some tips and tricks. Everybody nowadays is talking about functional workouts. So being functional means that the exercises you do utilize a lot of muscles at once. And that is very good for performance and very good to be the most effective as possible or efficient at driving bigger weights to a larger distance or a longer distance in the least amount of time. However, if a muscle or a few muscles are lagging, what you gotta do is you gotta isolate. You gotta do some isolated exercises specifically for that muscle. So don't be complaining about your calf not growing if you're not doing isolated exercises. So that is the first tip. But I do that, Willow. Swear to God, I do that. I do 4 sets of forearm and a couple more at night. Yeah, sure, but tell me something. This week, which exercise have you done, for instance? This is your response. Well, not this week, but last week and 3 weeks ago as well. So, okay. So you're lacking consistency. The muscle needs consistency to grow. If you do it this week and then forget about it for 2 weeks, and on the 3rd week you're gonna do it, I mean, this is not consistent. You need to do it to create that adaptation, and I prefer you to do exactly the same every week than to skip a week because you forgot about it or you didn't want to. Furthermore, next tip. You're doing once a week, you're being consistent. Now, up the frequency. Twice a week, or even 3 times a week for some muscles. I do it 3 or even 4 times a week for some muscles. It obviously depends on the individual and their logistics when it comes to the workouts, but if you train abs every other day, you're gonna get more results than if you train abs twice a week. But the bigger muscles like the chest or the quads, they require a little bit more time to rest and to recover. So if you work out and then give it 2 to 3 days of rest and recovery, then you might go for the other session. Along with the frequency, you got the volume. So frequency is how many days you work per week, that muscle. And volume is how many sets and repetitions do you do. So if you get stuck on that 3 sets of 8 to 10 repetitions, you're not really going for 4 or 5 sets. And sometimes I know it's boring to stay like 15 to 20 minutes on a machine or on an exercise, but it may make a difference. It might make a difference. So if you go for 4 sets or 5 sets of an exercise, you're gonna work it more than you were before, obviously. Or stuff like supersets, where you go do 1 exercise, and as soon as you finish, without resting, you go for the other exercise. This adds volume. Next tip, 5th. So, we've been going with some progression on this video. So you start with consistency, you start with once a week, then you go for 2 times a week, maybe 3 times a week. You up the volume, you up the sets and repetitions, obviously. You can even repeat the patterns until this point because you're beginning, you're building a foundation. But then after a while, what you need to do is you gotta add some variance. This means you've squeezed the results out of the muscles and now you need to vary a little bit. How?
Dumbbells, barbells, kettlebells, cables, machines, types of grip, slow repetitions, fast repetitions, holding on to the positions, isometry or isometric training.
All of these are ways of keeping your body stimulated. Bless you. And now for the last one. The muscles have two types of fibers. Slow twitch fibers, type 1, and fast twitch fibers, type 2. They're both comprised, each muscle is usually comprised of a ratio of both. Some have a higher ratio of fast twitch, and some others have a higher ratio of slow twitch. It obviously depends on the individual as well. So once we use this knowledge to our benefit, let's say we do a muscle twice a week. One of the sessions may be a lot more volume and lighter on the load and more repetitions to work on the slow twitch fibers, a little slower repetitions as well. And on the other day, bigger load, less repetitions, and more explosive action. That way, you're covering all the spectrum of possibilities within the development of that muscle. So you're gonna get the best of both worlds. That set pattern, that set hypertrophy pattern of 8 to 12 reps will get you far, I should say, but it's not a recipe that lasts forever. And above all else, study your muscles and get to know your body. If you can't beat them, join them, obviously. And follow me on Instagram and subscribe to this channel. Do contribute with your like, press the like button, and be Willow strong.